All right. Hi, everyone. So my name is Hannah Kubicki, and I'm a graduate assistant at SARC. So today we're going to be talking about time management, but I just wanted to kind of hear from everybody to see what year they're in. So if you want to use the reaction button, or you can send it in the chat. If you're a freshman, a sophomore, junior, grad student, if you just kind of want to go around and send in the chat what year you are. Awesome. So it looks like we've got a good mix of people, lots of freshmen, lots of grad students, some seniors as well. So hopefully you all find this presentation to be helpful to you where you are in your college career. So I'm just going to share my screen with you so you can see this presentation. All right, so like I said before, my name is Hannah Kubicki, and I'm a graduate student here at UCF in the Counselor Education Program. I worked with SARC since last spring as their ACE and Access graduate assistant. Today, the time management presentation is what I'm going to talk to you about. So in the chat, we just sent a link to our survey. It should only take you about a minute to complete, so we would appreciate you giving us some feedback on this presentation at the end of it. So first, to start out, what do you know about SARC services? So again, you can either unmute yourself and participate, or you can send it in the chat. And just to note, this presentation is being recorded, but your names in your video will not be released. So does anyone know about any of the services offered by SARC? Yep, so someone in the chat said tutoring, online workshops, which you're at right now, supplemental instruction. Yep, coaching is also a service that we offer. So here's just a list of all of the services that we offer. So with the remote instruction, a lot of our services are occurring over Zoom so that we can reach all of our students. You can find the links to the SI and tutoring schedules, as well as the appointment forms for our ACE coaching and our OIPC coaching on our website. So I'm just going to kind of go through each of the services and give you a brief explanation of them. So peer tutoring happens in a group format or in an individual format, and it's mainly for STEM courses. So if you are taking a STEM course and would like some additional assistance, make sure to check out the schedule. We also offer supplemental instruction, or SI. This is very similar to tutoring, but it's a little different. So SI is more targeted to specific courses. So the SI leader is assigned to a class and a specific professor, and they actually attend lectures with you. And they hold sessions 4 times a week. So this is kind of like an additional lecture on top of the professor's lectures. ACE coaching is one of the programs that I work with. So our coaches meet with students and kind of help them with additional academic skills such as time management, study skills, goal setting, motivation, note-taking, those types of skills that you need to be successful in your online courses. And then OIPC coaching is a new program that we're offering this semester. It's kind of targeted towards students who are in online classes because we know a lot of students are taking their courses online this semester. And in those sessions, coaches will help you navigate web courses, set goals for your semester and develop plans of how you can be successful in your online courses. We also offer academic success workshops, which you all are here at this first workshop for this semester. There will be 5 more workshops spread out throughout the semester, so be sure to check out those. And then lastly, we also have SARC Online, which is a website that has a bunch of online resources for our students. So you can access SARC Online by going to our website and clicking at the top of the page for the SARC Online. Does anyone have any questions about our services? All right. So for this presentation, like I talked about, it's going to be on time management. So the goals for this presentation are for you to understand different time management systems, to understand the causes of procrastination and how you can overcome that, as well as to help you develop a time management system for this semester. So what are some obstacles that students may face when managing a college schedule? And again, you can either unmute yourself to talk or you can enter your answers into the chat.
Managing a work schedule along with their schoolwork.
Yeah, that's definitely a big one for students, being able to manage their schedule when they have a lot to do. Yep, someone said in the chat, social time versus work time versus class time. Being able to kind of balance all of the different sections of your life will be incredibly important. What are some differences between managing your time for in-person classes versus online classes?
It can be difficult to like split time between different responsibilities and how to figure out when to dedicate time to what.
Yeah, definitely. Especially now with us all kind of being in our apartments or in our homes, there's a lot more kind of going on with your life. So there's more room for procrastination, like someone said, and trying to find the balance between schoolwork versus work versus your social life. Some of the other comments, finding a space in your home to where you can be productive is super important. Motivation is definitely a big struggle for a lot of students with the online format as well. And then just being in class at home, it can be harder to wake up because you don't have to walk anywhere. So you can literally wake up like 30 seconds before your class and log into Zoom. So that can also be a challenge faced by students. So I really like this slide right here. It kind of breaks down all of the time in a week. So overall, you have 168 hours in 1 week. Usually students spend about 15 hours in classes, but this is based on a 5-class schedule when we are in person. So I'm kind of curious to know what types of classes you guys are in, if it's a hybrid, if it's all online, if it's synchronous, if there's Zoom lectures or YouTube lectures. So again, if you want to speak out or put that in the chat just to see kind of the types of classes that you guys are in this semester. I mean, I know you're all in classes since you're sitting here. It looks like we have a good balance between synchronous and asynchronous classes. Some people have in-person classes. So it's definitely kind of a mix, and having all of these different classes can make it challenging to balance your schedule. So on top of your classes that you have each week, you also have to sleep. So if you get 8 hours of sleep each night, that's 56 hours a week that you spend sleeping. I know I, as a student, definitely don't get 8 hours of sleep a night. So I'm pretty sure most of you might not get 8 hours of sleep either. So if you factor in 3 hours a day for eating, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and some snacks along the way. So those are things that you're going to do every single week. That leaves you with 76 additional hours that you have to fill. So if you have your part-time job, which people mentioned before, you're working about 20 hours a week, and you budget 25 hours to have relaxation time for your family commitments, to socialize with your friends. That leaves you with a total of 31 hours that you can have to study. So looking at this breakdown, how do you feel about the amount of time you have each week? Do you feel like you have more time to study or less time to study than you thought? So it looks like some people in the chat said that they have more time than they were thinking. Some say that they have less time. So it's important to note that you can always make adjustments in your schedule. Again, like I said, not everyone gets 8 hours of sleep at night, so that gives you some more time. Same with eating. It might not take you a full 3 hours each day to eat, or you might multitask while you're eating. Same with relaxing and socializing. So there is some time in your schedule to be flexible and kind of to make your schedule work for you. So we're going to start out by doing an activity. I'm going to share a link in the, I'm going to share a document in the chat for you. So if everyone can please open up the document and kind of follow along, that would be great. All right, so I just sent in the chat to everyone. So like I said, please go ahead and download it and open it up. So the first step is going to ask you to write down everything that you typically do in a week. So these can be things like your classes, work, family obligations, anything else that you do in a week. So if you're a part of a student organization that meets every week, things like that. So go ahead and take a couple minutes to write down those tasks. And then just preparing you, we will be sharing. So come back prepared to share. So once you have your list of tasks that you have to do every week, I want you to write out next to them how much time you typically spend doing that task each week. And then when you're done with that, you can move on to section step 2 on the paper, which is the priority totem pole. And I want you to organize your tasks with putting the most important one on the top with the least important one on the bottom. All right, so now that you've taken some time to kind of prioritize the tasks that you have, what is your top priority? Again, you can enter that into the chat or unmute yourself to talk. Looks like a lot of you are prioritizing studying and attending your classes, which is super important as students to be able to have those as priorities because you are here to do well and to get your college degree. But family and making time for your family and your work schedule is also going to be important to be able to find that balance in your life as a student. Now, taking a look back, does the amount of time you're spending on these tasks each week align with the priority that you assign to each task? So that's something you can kind of just reflect on for your own and kind of keep that in mind when we're moving forward throughout this presentation. Same with 2 other questions I want you to consider. So is there anything on your list that you think you need to spend more time each week on than you are, or anything that you could spend less time on? So this worksheet is another worksheet that we use in ACE coaching. It's called the Eisenhower Matrix. We're not going to go over this worksheet or do it together, but I'm going to send it in the chat for you just so that you can have it for the future. It can be a really helpful tool to kind of prioritize what's important and what you should be working on each week versus things that you can maybe push off to a later date. So next we're going to talk about procrastination. Go ahead and use the reaction button, either a thumbs up or the clapping, if you've ever procrastinated ever in your life. Awesome. So scrolling through, it looks like everyone has procrastinated, which I know that I procrastinate a lot as well. So as students, it can definitely be a struggle to get past that, especially now, as mentioned earlier in the presentation, motivation can be less with being online and being home, that not having the pressure of being on the college campus. So this just kind of shows you an example of the cycle of procrastination. So it starts with thinking about or being reminded about something that you have coming up due in one of your classes. So say today is Thursday, and you look at your web courses and you see that you have an exam next week on Thursday in your math class. So now you're thinking about your math exam and you're a little worried for it and you know you should study, but your roommate comes in and they want to watch a show on Netflix. So you start watching Netflix, you go out to dinner with your friends, you spend the weekend with your roommates playing video games, watching Netflix, maybe doing a little homework here or there. Then next thing you know, it's now Wednesday night and your exam is tomorrow. So that's really common for students to kind of push things off and they end up having to cram at the last minute. So now that we've talked a little bit about the cycle of procrastination, what are some common causes of procrastination for you? Go ahead and enter those into the chat. Looks like there's lots of commonalities between you guys. So stress, getting distracted by your phone, watching Netflix, watching sports, wanting to spend time with your friends. So all of these are super common that can be experienced by students. So here's a list of other possibilities. So having a poor time management system can cause you to procrastinate if you haven't set aside time to do your assignments. Lack of prioritization, which we had just talked about, making sure that your classes in your school are a high priority for you. This picture is kind of one of my favorite things that I saw when I was in undergrad. My professor showed it to me and it was really relatable. Like the whole 400 person lecture started laughing because we do tend to spend a lot of time telling people the things that we have to do versus the amount of time we actually spend doing it. So it's just a good visual reminder to kind of keep in mind. So now that we've kind of talked about the causes of procrastination, what do you think you can do to kind of help yourself not procrastinate? Again, go ahead and brainstorm some ideas in the chat. Looks like a lot of people are mentioning having to-do lists, having a schedule and keeping with them, limiting their distractions, which good for news for you guys who mentioned having a strict set schedule because that's what we're going to do today. So yeah, and being able to hold yourself accountable is going to be super important, as well as having a support network that helps keep you accountable. So these are just some common cures. So time management skills, keeping yourself organized, being in an environment that is good for concentration, making sure that you have some long-term goals that you're sticking with, and accountability is a really big one. Since we're all at home, in the chat, I want you all to kind of write where you are studying. So it looks like some people are on campus and they're able to take advantage of the student union and the library. Lots of people are studying in their bedrooms, which is really common now that we're all kind of quarantined and stuck in our homes. Just be mindful to make sure that you are limiting your distractions, and it's definitely best to study at a desk versus being in your bed, just so that you can kind of keep your relaxation separate from your academics. So speaking of concentration, what should I do if I'm ready to start, but I can't remain focused on the task that I'm doing? So these are some tips about concentration. So again, having a good study environment whether that's a quiet place or a place that has some music on in the background, making sure that you have all of your materials with you, making sure that you're not hungry, so that you don't have to keep stopping to go to the kitchen to get snacks, because that can be a big distraction. Making sure that you're fully awake, so being mindful of going to bed at night and making sure that you're getting enough sleep, as well as making sure that you're studying during times of day when you are fully awake, and not trying to put up studying for times early in the morning when you're waking up, when you're maybe not fully awake, or super late at night when you'd rather be sleeping than studying. And then here are 2 apps that our academic coaches recommend. They can help you stay focused and on your tasks. So definitely if you find concentration to be an issue for you, I definitely recommend checking out 2 of these apps. So studying is a term that kind of encompasses a lot of things. So in the chat, I want you guys to write some things that you think fall under the term of studying. Yep, so it looks like a lot of reading, doing your homework, going over your notes, practice problems. So reading your textbooks, doing practice quizzes, anything that you can think of that you need to do for your course to be successful can kind of fall under the umbrella term of studying. So this is just kind of a list of some different things. Also, attending 2-year SI sessions held by SARC can also fall under that term of studying. So now I want you to go back to that worksheet that I shared with you at the beginning of the workshop to fill out this section. So I want you to write down the classes that you're in, how difficult you would rate the class, and then it gives you a little key at the top of how many hours a week you should be studying for that class. So if your class is on the easier end, you can probably spend only about 2 hours a week studying. If the class is about an average difficulty, you're going to want to spend about 4 hours studying. And if it's a course that's a little bit more challenging for you, you're going to want to budget for about 6 hours per week studying. Again, this is kind of just a guide of what we found is typical for students, but you're going to have to find out what works best for you for each of your classes. All right, so now we're going to get into talking about your schedule as a student. So this is an example schedule of some imaginary student. As you can see, they have their courses listed in it. They have their work schedule. They have some study blocks built in. They built in their meal times. They built in gym time, tutoring, times to relax. So the student has a pretty jammed-packed schedule of things that they're doing. With online classes, it can be a little challenging to have those set times in your schedule when the class isn't automatically set as meeting at specific times. So we are about to make a student schedule. So make sure that you are keeping that in mind. We definitely recommend to our students that if your class does not have a time block when they are meeting, to kind of schedule that in and make that your class time for the week, so that you are making sure that you are still having time each week to work on that class. So I'm going to share another document in the chat. This is going to be a student schedule similar to the one that's shown in the corner that you can fill out. So I just shared the file in the chat with you. So if you want to take some time to fill out the schedule with your classes and your work schedule for next week. And this list on the is to kind of help you to remember what you should be including on your schedule. And keep in mind that last activity we did when you're building in your study blocks into your schedule. If anyone is having any issues accessing the worksheets, one of our academic coaches, Laura, just sent some links to SARC Online, so you can get the worksheets off of there as well. Go ahead and give me a reaction, either thumbs up or the clapping, if you have finished your schedule. It looks like a couple of you are done, so I'll give just a couple more minutes. right. Hopefully you have gotten at least a couple days done on your schedule. If you haven't completed your whole schedule yet, I definitely recommend finishing that after the workshop. So how do you feel about your schedule? Again, you can use the chat or unmute yourself to talk. So it looks like it can be a little overwhelming seeing everything that you have to do on one page, but people like that it's kind of organized and that it's all in one place so you can kind of see it all at the same time. Even though it's overwhelming, do you think that it's something that's manageable for you? And then one thing I want you all to kind of think about, just looking at your schedule, is there anything that you need to add to there that you forgot? Or is there anything on there that you might need to cut back on to make some more time for something else? So just be mindful and thinking about that as you go through with your schedule. So here are some time management principles. So it's going to be really important to assess your current use of your time. So making sure that you have enough time to get everything done that you need to in a week. I challenge all of you to kind of follow through with that schedule that you just made through this next week and kind of sit down at the end of the week to see how the schedule worked for you and make adjustments as necessary. It's going to be super important that you create a routine and kind of follow through with a schedule. This can kind of help you beat some of the procrastination and maybe some lack of motivation that you might be feeling with your online classes. You're sticking to that schedule just to make sure that you're getting everything done. And it's completely fine to change your schedule based off the week. If you feel like it's midterms or finals and you need to spend more time studying, you can adjust so that you have less time for your fun activities, relaxation, or if your work schedule changed on a weekly basis, just making sure that you are making those adjustments to your schedule so that works for you. It's going to be really important that you keep track of all of your assignments and your deadlines, especially with online classes. Sometimes in-person classes it can be easier to keep track of your assignments. If you're in class, your professor might remind you about the class and what you kind of have coming up in the class. So just making sure that you are checking your syllabus and checking web courses and the calendar function to kind of see when your assignments are due and what deadlines are coming up. If you have any really big assignments, definitely breaking down your assignments into smaller, more manageable chunks can kind of help you with your concentration. So if you're setting study times and study blocks, I definitely recommend for every hour you spend studying, give yourself a short 10-minute break, get up, go for a walk, get out to see some sunshine, scroll through social media, do something to give your mind a break, which can also help with your concentration when you sit back down to start your studying again. It's also going to be really important that you are planning ahead. So make sure that you have enough time each week to get your assignments done. If you know you have a vacation or a weekend trip coming up, make sure that you get your assignments done before that so that you have kind of some time in your schedule. And then make sure that you're using reminders just to make sure that you are keeping on top of your assignments. So it's also really important that you are realistic with your schedule. So make sure that you are avoiding taking on too much work. I know I saw someone mention in the chat that their work schedule is kind of dominating their life right now and they might not have enough time for school. So make sure that you know how many hours you can realistically work to be able to stay on top of everything that you need to do. So like this next one says, make sure that you're cautious with your work hours, especially with being home and maybe not having to attend your classes in person. You could potentially be working more hours at work. So just make sure that you have enough time to balance everything that you need to do. So here's a list of some other time management systems and styles that you can use. So you can use planners, you can make to-do lists, use Post-it notes, things like that. There's also a lot of online calendars and apps that you can use, as well as phone apps. So these are just kind of some other options that you can use to manage your time. So I'm curious in the chat if anyone has systems or styles that they use that aren't mentioned here on this list, or any apps that they might recommend to their fellow students to help them stay organized. So it looks like someone did recommend the app Habit in the chat. I know that a lot of students who come into coaching also have some recommendations. I know like the iStudies app came from one of our students with coaching, and I ended up actually downloading the app myself after getting the recommendation for the student. So definitely check with your peers and your fellow students to kind of see with them to find out what's working for them as well. So assessing your schedule and adapting it is going to be incredibly important. So like I said, I challenge all of you to try out your schedule next week and kind of sit down and to assess how it's going. So does the schedule work for you? Do you need more time for studying and less time for other things? Do you need less time to study and so that gives you some more free time? Just make sure that you're assessing to make sure that you are prioritizing what's most important and that you're getting your work done. It's also going to be important to make sure that you're taking advantages of resources that are offered by our campus to help you be successful in your courses. So this is kind of like a summary slide of some of the things that we've talked about today, and some of them are like guiding principles for what you should keep in mind when you are trying to develop your time management system. These are also located on the bottom of the first worksheet that I sent to all of you so that you can have this reminder in the future. So make sure you're keeping track of your assignments, whether that's in a planner, whether you're using a calendar, if you have to-do lists, if you're just checking web courses every day. Make sure that you have a system to keep track of your assignments and that it works for you. Make sure that you are you have some type of schedule or a routine that you are constantly following and making sure that the time that you're using is the most effective. Break down any big assignments so that it's more manageable, and this can help you also with your concentration. Make sure that you're planning ahead. This can also help if random things pop up or if you're having technology issues. Make sure that you're getting stuff done ahead of time so that you're not waiting until that 11:58 to turn in your assignment that's due at 11:59, and then some glitch happens and your assignment is late. So just making sure that you plan ahead and kind of follow through with your plan to make sure that you can get your things done on time. Make sure that you have a quiet space or a space in your home or wherever you want to study that is conducive to studying. And if reward systems work for you, make sure that you built in rewards to your time management schedule. So if you're following through and you get your assignments on time, go get some ice cream or watch your favorite show on Netflix. Make sure you are rewarding yourself for completing your assignments on time. And then this last point, time management is definitely going to be a balance of everything that you have going on in your life. So a lot of you mentioned you work part-time jobs. you're a student, you've got family obligations, you've got other obligations in your personal life. So just make sure that you find that perfect work-life balance. So all of the ideas and things that we've talked about in this presentation are just one way of doing it. So really it's going to be important that you find what works best for you. I know we say this a lot in our coaching sessions. If students ask us specifically what they should do, a lot of it is going to have to come from you, and it's going to be trial and error. You kind of have to figure out what works best for you, and what works best for you in high school might not work best for you in college. And even semester to semester, you're going to have to kind of look at your classes and what you have going on that semester to kind of figure out what's best for you. Make sure that you're flexible with your schedule. So reflect on what's worked and just be mindful that you might have to be able to adapt quickly if what you've planned to use this semester for time management is not working out. And then just make sure that you take advantage of all of the resources and opportunities that UCF has to offer you as a student. So some of those are services that are offered by SARC. If you've liked any of the worksheets or activities that we did today, all of those have come from our ACE coaching program. So I definitely recommend if you need more help with time management or some of the other academic skills like textbook reading, note taking, and things like that, check out our ACE coaching. They can kind of give you a more individualized approach to these different topics. And these are just some other resources that you should take advantage of while you're a student here at UCF. If you are having questions in your classes, go to your professor's office hours. I know a lot of them are holding their office hours over Zoom, so it can be really easy to attend and kind of just to drop into their office hours. So if you have a question, reach out to them because they are there to help you. If you have questions about your major or want to change classes, make sure that you reach out to your academic advisors. SARC, highly recommend SARC. It's amazing. I know we have a lot of SARC employees here too, and they're all nodding their heads in agreement. So if you ever need any help with your classes, we're definitely here to help you. And then going back to that accountability piece, ask your friends to help keep you accountable. Have study groups with your people in your classes. Talk to your roommates. Talk to your family. Just reach out to anyone that you know to kind of help keep you accountable. And that is the end of our presentation. So in the chat, we'll send the link to the survey again. So please fill out the survey to give us feedback on this presentation. Does anyone have any questions? And then if anyone was required to attend today, if you fill out that, if you fill out the evaluation survey, they will be able to get into contact to tell them that you attended today.